So I think we can probably agree that the media practices at the minute leave a lot to be desired, don't they? I
Yeah,
think that's
most certainly.
probably putting
Yes.
it lightly. And journalistic standards, I think it's safe to say, have slipped from an already pretty low point in the first place. However, there is a ray of hope, a sparkling
Good.
ray of sunshine in an otherwise grey and miserable world, and that is trolling them into proper practice. And I'm going to introduce you to this article, and I'm going to read all of it and pay close attention to some of the details, because I'm going to pose to you a little bit of a mystery as to the nature of this article, because I'm going to single it out for a reason, and I want to
Right.
see if you can guess it. Obviously, I've told you already before we started, so
Yes.
Dan is exempt, but
Right.
everyone else in the audience have a bit of fun spotting some of the things about this article that might make it a little bit different to normal. So it's titled, Irish Women's Obsession with Fake Tan is Problematic. Now, that headline on its own, I agree. Not for the same reason that they give in the article, but I think fake tan, to borrow a term from the Americans, which I'm rather affectionate of actually, which is a rare thing for me to praise, American English, but it's a bit white trash, isn't it? Fake tan. It's kind of an
Yes.
indicator of low social status, in my opinion.
Yes, because otherwise you just have a long weekend in the Bahamas, wouldn't you?
Well, exactly. It's imitating the wealth of being able to go on holiday without actually having it and getting the tan naturally. And also, it looks tacky, and also being fluorescent orange, despite our
Yes.
beloved future commander-in-chief.
It's very
in the
much like
States.
breast implants, isn't it? As long as you do a little bit, it can be enhancing, but typically they tend to just go way too far.
Augment, do not mask. That's
Yeah.
just a good general rule. But that's not anything to do with what I'm actually talking about.
Oh,
It's just
right,
a
okay.
personal gripe.
Yep.
But it's the byline here is, when a white Irish woman dons fake tan for a night out, she is wearing a costume that allows her to experience a fleeting taste of a more exotic identity, with none of the obstacles of people of colour face. Colour face.
That
Bit
people
strange.
of colour face, sort the grammar out. Irish Times.
But if you scroll down, John, obviously thumbnail's not that controversial, but obviously look at the author there. If you scroll up a little bit, John, just a touch, Adriana Acosta-Cortez.
Okay.
That sure sounds like someone we know in American politics.
Yeah.
I wish I could put my finger on which Democratic New York-based
I don't think
socialist
you can
that
call her
is.
base, to be honest.
I mean, based in a location.
All right, okay, yep.
I haven't received a blow to the head. I'm not calling AOC based, don't worry. But it starts like this. It says, Dear Irish women, we need to talk about fake tan, which is already very condescending. I am a Latinx, a term used to describe people of Latin American heritage, woman of colour who grew up as the youngest child in a strict Catholic family in the south of Guayaquil in Ecuador. I moved to Ireland in May 2015, 2 weeks before your country became the first to legalise same-sex marriage by popular vote, with the intention of living and working here for 2 or 3 years. But the marriage equality referendum made a huge impression on me. I did not expect such a progressive movement from a historically Catholic country like the one I grew up in. My opinion of Ireland, I accidentally adopted the accent there.
No,
Ireland.
I want you to do the whole thing in an Irish accent.
My opinion of Ireland was formed, I'm not going to do that, and I have since found it to be a loving, accepting and considerate country, always on the forefront of progressive social change, unless you're English, of course. They're not loving and accepting then. That is one aspect of Irish culture, sits so uncomfortably with me. I don't know, that's grammatically correct. The widespread use of fake tanning products. I first noticed the phenomenon a few months after my arrival, when a colleague was showing me photographs of her children that were on her desk. Her daughter appeared twice. In one casual photo, she had fair skin. In the other, she was wearing a beautiful ball gown and her skin was darker than mine. I asked my colleague if her husband was South American. She laughed and replied, no, none of us can get a colour. That's straight out of a bottle. I mean, I see no problem with that. I mean, other than the fake tanning, which I think is a bit tacky.
Yeah.
But so far, I don't see the racism. But that might be the point, maybe. I mean...
Oh, I never perceive the racism these days. I mean, it's just past me.
Fake tanning wasn't something that I had encountered much before, but afterwards I started seeing it everywhere. From the bronzed influencers on Instagram to the tanned attendees of local nightclubs, fake tanning appeared to have ingrained itself into the fabric of Irish society. Ireland has the highest per capita use of fake tan in the world, and a quick search of the Boots website shows 480 various tanning products from 43 brands. So one of the palest places in the world consumes the most fake tan. I mean,
one thing that's really
colour me
interesting
surprised.
is if you go to countries with a lot of sun, you'll often find that their tanning creams are sold as whitening.
Mm-hmm.
So in pale countries, the women tend to want to get darker, and in the dark countries, women tend to want to get lighter.
I don't really understand it because I'm quite drawn to fair-skinned women in the paler sense.
Well, that's the thing with these hot countries is they want to be what they're not. So if they start out from a darker position, literally the sun creams say put this on and you'll get lighter in the sun. It's the precise opposite.
How would that work? You take in like negative UV rays that make you paler.
Presumably bleach or something. I don't know.
Well, this article does go on to mention skin bleaching in Africa.
Okay.
So it says, we can't talk about fake tan without acknowledging the historic context of skin colour and the value that's been placed on it. For centuries, Eurocentric beauty standards have favoured lighter skin tones, often at the expense of people with darker complexions. Racism and colorism, prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone have resulted in marginalisation, discrimination, inequality for people of colour by artificially darkening skin. Fake tanning culture inadvertently perpetuates the fetishisation of high melanin content without acknowledging the struggles faced by those who naturally possess it. Now, I actually think there might be a little bit to this. And I've not been hit in the head, but I think that part of it does come from a fetishisation of dark-skinned people because...
There's certainly that going on, isn't there?
Certainly in music and entertainment, people of African heritage are wildly overrepresented, and to thick-skulled people that aspire to be...
Such as in adverts, for example.
Yes, that aspire to be those sorts of people who are towed along by celebrity gossip, well, they might be a bit self-conscious of how they don't look like the people that they are looking up to. So it could be a factor there. That they are trying to look more dark, because I think I've seen this sort of ghettoisation of some white women. I've got to say,
this just seems like a classically tortuously woke article so far.
Yes, and if you scroll down a bit, John, because I'm not going to read through too much more of it, because I think you get the point. If you go up again and look at that picture, that's the author there, supposedly.
Okay.
Notice anything strange about that picture?
Well, it's blue hair, so... classical wokey, and she's a bit fat, so again, you know, that might be why she's decided to go in for left-wing politics.
But not the content of the picture itself, but the nature of the picture. Is some aspects of it seem not natural, some might say.
The lighting's a bit off. You know, you want to get the lighting right.
Yeah. But let's skip ahead, because it just goes on, and it basically is the cookie cutter arguments of wokeism. But we move on to this next article. Here we have Irish newspaper admits one of its most read articles was an AI hoax and apologises. It says the piece was the paper's second most read article and prompted debate on radio and social media. As per The Independent, several social media users also questioned whether the photo and the name of the writer were those of a real person. Many suggested that the byline picture of a blue-haired Latin American woman had been created by artificial intelligence.
So that entire article was AI generated?
It was 80% AI generated, apparently. So the AI generated it, and I think they curated it just so it would hit some of the right notes.
Probably removing the bit that says, as a language model, I can't generate a woke model, but here's some suggestions or something. But the thing is, that article you just read, you know, until you told me that it was AI, that is just classic. That's just classic Guardian. Like 90% of what gets written in the Guardian or any of these other sort of, you know, what's the American version?
CNN.
Huffington.
Huffington Post, Washington Post.
That is all they do.
In fact, if anything, that's slightly better written.
Yes. Fewer spelling mistakes.
Well, that like kind of explains why when BuzzFeed, before it was BuzzFeed News was dissolved, when they announced they were replacing some of their journalists, I think 12% of their journalists were laid off,
Okay.
and they were replacing them with ChatGPT. Their stock price trebled. It trebled at the prospect of replacing real BuzzFeed journalists with AI.
So the big problem with AI is that it's at the moment it's not doing much by way of creativity. It tends to take the existing corpus of knowledge and add nothing to it, which is perfect for left-wing journalism because they don't do any thinking. No first principles analysis takes place. It is purely going with the herd. So there is no reason why you can't replace all left-wing journalists with just a chat prompt engineer.
It's very true, yeah. I mean, when you don't have anything original to say, coincidentally
Become a
enough, you
lefty.
can be automated away.
And there have been.
Yes, and this was also something that I found funny, that I found the Twitter account of the supposed author of this, and they tweeted at the Irish Times, genuinely sad that a once respectable news source has degraded themselves with such divisive tripe. In order to generate clicks and traffic from their website, you need a better screening process than a believable Gmail address. And then they also linked, if you scroll down, John, an article from the Irish Times itself, BuzzFeed meets OpenAI, is the robot infiltration of the media underway? Which is just genius level trolling, isn't it? That was a paying gig for them as well.
That's why those of us on the right will be the last in journalism, because we go against the narrative so hard that there isn't enough corpus of knowledge out there for the AI to replicate us.
I'd also like to think an AI couldn't kind of replicate our delivery, in that left-wingers tend to just regurgitate information or talk in a sort of monotonous way about how morally contemptuous. But yes, there's some additional details here that The Guardian have kindly provided, who I'm not surprised have not been replaced by AI themselves. And it says, the person who controls Acosta-Cortez's Twitter account told The Guardian on Sunday via direct message that the Irish Times' apology sidestepped its decision to publish an incendiary article with an extreme left-wing viewpoint in pursuit of clicks. And it certainly was an extreme left-wing article.
The Irish Times, they
didn't
know that they were posting an AI article, did they?
No, they thought it was a legitimate author.
Right.
So the only reason that they're upset, other than the backlash...
And it was their most...
second most, yeah. But it was close.
They've ever had. Right, okay.
It's funny, isn't it, that an AI better than 99% of the Irish Times journalists.
An AI can represent a brain-dead wokester better than an actual brain-dead wokester. Remarkable.
It carries on to say, the person said they were Irish, a college student, and identified as non-binary, which is a bit of a twist, isn't it? You wouldn't expect that from someone who went out of their way.
I've never figured out what that means.
It means they don't identify with male or female, which
I
suppose
they do, because they want to get victim points. It's basically it's just woman with an extra victim point added on, isn't it? Like an extra half star. If you ever you've got those at school, 4.5 stars.
I tended not to get many stars.
Oh, okay.
To be fair. They said they created the Acosta-Cortez persona by repurposing the Twitter account, which dates from February 2021, by using some Spanish and following Ecuadorian outlets. They said they used GPT-4 to create approximately 80% of the article, and the image generator DALL-E 2 to create a profile picture of a quintessential woke journalist using the prompts female, overweight, blue hair, business casual clothing, smug expression.
Well, they basically just need to say, liberal arts educated, don't they?
That's all that's missing there, yeah. They've got almost a full
bingo.
Well,
no, that would have been a catch-all for all of those terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The hoax's goal was to give my friends a laugh and to stir the S in debates about identity politics. Some people have called me an alt-right troll, but I don't think that I am. I think that identity politics is an extremely unhelpful lens through which to interpret the world. So part of me thinks that they told The Guardian they were non-binary for a bit of a lark as well. Just like, you can't pin me down. Because why would they be complaining about identity politics but be non-binary? So I think they might have...
Oh, it's just all made up though, isn't
it? They might have done it again here.
Yes.
Which I would like to think. In absence of any evidence, I would like to believe. I have actually quickly going to our website, talked about artificial intelligence on a couple of occasions, all the way towards the origin point of my series Contemplations.
Before it was even a popular thing.
Oi.
No, AI has only really been a story in the last 6 months.
Oh, right.
But you were talking about it early. I wasn't denigrating
I'm on
Contemplations.
130 episodes now.
No, exactly. That's my point. Contemplations is great. I hear you've got some great guests coming up.
Guests? I've got Bo. He's certainly a great guest. I'll give you that. But I thought you meant an external for a second there. But yes, I talk about the potential of AI technology, and I talked about it from a sort of psychologist lens, in that I was talking about how they were trying to recreate the human brain in a supercomputer, and they'd already sort of got the majority share of I think it was a mouse brain, or like a shrew brain that they created that would operate in a comparable way. I don't quite know how it works logistically, but there's
it's increasingly looking like, because that always used to be how they thought they had to replicate intelligence in computers. It's increasingly looking like you can do a shortcut of it.
I think that's probably
the analogy is that even with modern technology, we really struggle to produce a flying machine that flies the way a bird does. Because the way a bird flies, it's obviously flapping wings, but more than that, it's self-repairing. It has to be made using only the most abundant elements, carbon, oxygen, that kind of stuff. Whereas the way that we fly is basically we just get a whole load of aluminum and put rocket fuel in it and just go really fast.
Aluminium?
Yes. Oh God, I didn't say aluminum, did I?
You did.
Oh, God, punch me now. But anyway, the point is that we achieve flying for a different mechanism, and it looks like what we can do with AI is basically just use large language models to shortcut the intelligence accessing process. So, yeah, fascinating one, that one. Glad you were on it in the early days.
Thank you very much. And I also, perhaps a bit later to the party, also discussed will superintelligent AI destroy humanity? And I was just kind of going through some of the books I've read.
We're certainly in a race, aren't we? Because it's either going to be the left or AI. So if AI wants to destroy humanity, it's going to have to, pull its socks up and get a move on. There won't be anything left before long.
Yeah. It's got a healthy amount of competition, and if anything, we know competition breeds innovation. So
yes, let's see what it can do.
But there have been some other recent examples as well of people using media to kind of AI to troll the media, even the other way around. ChatGPT is making up fake Guardian articles, and I think this is more the AI itself, in that it's collating Guardian articles and then making ones up on topics that haven't actually been discussed, and just selling it off as being a legitimate thing. So it's like it's like faking its sources.
That's what the Guardian have done for the last 30 years.
I know, and they have the gall to complain about it. But it says, last month, one of our journalists received an interesting email. A researcher had come across mention of a Guardian article written by the journalist on a specific subject from a few years before, but the piece was proving elusive on our website and in search. Had the headline perhaps been changed since it was launched? Had it been removed intentionally from the website because of problems we've identified? Or had it been taken down by the subject of the piece through legal means? The reporter couldn't remember writing the specific piece, but the headline...
You couldn't tell.
But the headline certainly sounded like something they would have written. It was a subject they were identified with and had a record of covering. Worried that there may have been a mistake on our end, they asked colleagues to go back through the system to track it down. Despite the detailed record we keep of all of our content, and especially around deletions or legal issues, they couldn't find no trace of its existence. Why? Because it had never been written. Luckily, the researcher had told us they had carried out their research using ChatGPT. In response to being asked about articles on the subject, the AI had simply made some up. Its fluency and the vast training data it is built on meant that the existence of the invented piece even seemed believable to the person who absolutely hadn't written it, which I think is hilarious.
When you can't tell whether you've written something or not.
And the funny thing is that this whole debacle, you think, well, that's kind of an innocent thing, that's something to laugh about. Well, it's meant that The Guardian has had to spend more money which is only a good thing in my opinion.
Oh no!
So this one incident has
Using
led
up more of
to...
its trust fund.
We've created a working group and small engineering team to focus on learning about the technology, considering the public policy and IP questions around it, listening to academics and practitioners, talking to other organisations, consulting and training our staff, and exploring safely and responsibly how the technology performs when applied to journalistic use.
Oh, for
Which sounds
God's
like
sakes. That is such a Guardian way of solving a problem.
there's... I wonder how many people are hired in doing that.
In the Murdoch press, it would just be Murdoch will say, right, we're doing this. But, they need to form a committee.
That's
and have
why
and have
the Guardian
crying
newspaper,
circle.
like the people who read it, live off of the trust fund.
Yes.
And I think this is amusing because you can pretty much use AI now to waste the Guardian's money and contribute to bankrupting it, as well as embarrass,
Yes.
the Irish Times as well.
Yes.
The trolling possibilities really are endless. And although I can't legally advocate for it, what you do in your own time isn't up to me. There's also this one, which got the Daily Mail as well. Reports of actor dying of 12 plastic surgeries, a hoax. And this is the Daily Star, which has the gall to criticise people on their journalistic practices. Seems to be an artificially generated image, I don't know.
Yes.
But it says a report circulating about a 22-year-old actor named Saint Von Colucci dying after undergoing 12 cosmetic procedures to look like BTS's Jimin. I presume that's one of those J-pop people. Oh, no, not J-pop, K-pop.
Not a clue what that is.
Korean pop music.
Oh,
It's
right, okay.
it's very off-piste for my taste, personally, but
Right,
I hear that some people like it.
Fair enough.
Has turned out to be an elaborate hoax involving the use of artificial intelligence. News of the alleged death was first reported on April 24th by the Daily Mail and has now been pulled. So it's another AI-generated story that has put the press in a spot of bother. And I think that this is quite promising for the future. Like, there are lots of fun potential applications for this, aren't there?
Well, yes, like putting the entire left news wing news industry out of business.
That's not even trolling. That is just good business at this point. It makes way more sense to just have ChatGPT writing 12 articles at once than employing all the Guardian staff. You might actually get some better arguments as well.
I mean, the people reading them don't think about them anyway, so it doesn't matter.
They're basically NPCs to begin with.
Yes,
so
yes, quite.
They're not even conscious. No, that's not true. But this sort of thing has been putting the fear of God into the media for quite some time. And I wanted to review some of the articles about it. Here's Slate. I think this was from 2022, talking about the 4chan AI, which was trained on 4chan and just became very racist and trolled people and all sorts of usual 4chan things.
Is Slate the one that's gone out of business recently?
No, it's BuzzFeed News and
right.
Vice News, which got bailed out by Soros anyway.
Oh, I see.
So
okay.
they're going to become
all the same
worse.
anyway. Yep.
And also we have the Daily Star here talking about a similar thing. Worst AI ever, loves to make unspeakable, horrible racist posts and troll online. I'd like to think that if all of the people doing this sort of thing online were arrested, rounded up in some sort of spate of authoritarianism, one person with an AI and a running computer could send the whole system into meltdown, because this was able to post about 10% of 4chan's posts in one day. Like 10% of all the posts on the entire website were from this AI. So it's very industrially racist as well.
What it makes up for in subtlety, it compensates for in sheer bulk.
It does indeed. Moving on to this next one. Rapid growth of news sites using AI tools like ChatGPT is driving the spread of misinformation. This is Euronews, which is generally speaking a good bellwether for what's on the globalists' minds. It's everything they publish is basically sort of WEF agenda approved.
Right.
Lots of boxes ticked.
Yes.
And
so they don't like the competition for their own misinformation then?
Apparently not. It clearly undermines the very deliberate and designed misinformation made by a human. Then we have another one here titled "Be Very Scared of AI plus Social Media in Politics."
Right.
Just telling you to be scared.
Yes.
And finally, we have Cyber News. Which is more of a threat to the West, AI-written fake news or human trolling? What about neither?
Yes. Well, let's make a good go of both. See how far we get.
Yeah, but there's a bit of a downside in that these sorts of things are being used by the regime, in that Amnesty International has been using it to generate fake protest pictures for their websites and promotional material. A German outlet published an interview with Michael Schumacher, who
I've heard of this one.
has not been out of the house since his horrific accident, and they used AI to generate an interview, which led to his family understandably suing them.
That's rather poor taste.
It is in very poor taste. I don't think that should be done. And they have also been proposing potential solutions. So we have the BBC here, fake Trump arrest photos, how to spot an AI-generated image, and they're trying to teach people how to spot them.
Yes.
And Google has also tried to go into a bit of damage control here. Google will label fake images created with its AI, but of course, Google's not the only one. And again, we have NPR. AI-generated deepfakes are moving fast, but policymakers can't keep up, which is just
this will all be solved
them.
in the next 5 years with zero knowledge proofs.
Mm-hmm.
But don't ask me to explain that because it will take 20 minutes.
I don't really understand it anyway, but I know the gist. And finally, the Chinese are also persecuting people for using AI to generate so-called fake news. So I think the Western world is going to take this model of, if you use AI to create a fake story, you are going to be arrested. And I think I'm calling it, it's going to happen, and it's going to happen soon, because the power within this to disrupt the regime is massive, and it would be very terrible if you were to do it. Definitely don't do that, because it could get me in trouble for covering it. But nevertheless, I thought it's a bit of uplifting news that there are things you can do to fight the power, but legally you can't do them.
No, obviously.
Thank you very much for watching that segment from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. And if you want to support our work, make sure to sign up to our website, where we have videos like this. This is Contemplations, which is my series, and this is episode 124, How to Think Better, where I look at ways of mitigating cognitive biases. And also, if you want to support us on social media, my Twitter is Twitter/JoshFirm. Thank you for watching.